Shocking find. Neanderthal discovery at 3 a.m. that changes everything about human history. The clock struck 3, and darkness draped the forest like a heavy cloak. It was then, under the eerie glow of a flickering flashlight, that something unimaginable happened. A group of amateur archaeologists stumbled upon an ancient burial site. But this wasn't just any discovery. No, it was a Neanderthal grave that held secrets that could unravel everything we thought we knew about human evolution. As the beam of light danced over the ground, skeletal remains glimmered, half buried in the earth, whispering tales of a time long gone. The air was thick with a chilling sensation, each breath a struggle. A low growl, perhaps a wild animal, echoed from the shadows, sending shivers down their spines. Heartbeats synchronized in a drumroll of fear, while the scent of damp earth and decay clung to their noses like a haunting perfume. But it was the discovery of the tool, simple yet sophisticated, that truly froze them in place. Carved stones, finely honed edges, and strange markings that seemed to pulse with life. A gruesome elegance that spoke of a people who once thrived in this very spot. With trembling hands, Sarah, one of the archaeologists, reached for a small carving. It bore symbols that looked like a language they had never seen before. What if this changes everything? She breathed, her voice barely a whisper beneath the crunch of leaves underfoot. The unease grew, rippling through the small group as uncertainty cast a long shadow over their minds. What did these symbols mean? Who were these people? Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The wind howled suddenly, as if mocking them for their curiosity, and they all shared a worried glance. They were now breathless with a mix of excitement and dread. Questions multiplied in their minds, each more unsettling than the last. What powerful knowledge did these remains hold? But just as they began to piece together the gravity of their find, a distant scream shattered the silence, the kind that crawls under your skin and sends adrenaline coursing through your veins. It was a cry of despair, raw and chilling. They spun towards the sound, fear etched on their faces. Something was out there, something that had no business lurking in the shadows. And it was getting closer. Unease gripped the group like a vice. The scream echoed again, sharp and heart-pounding, piercing through the whispering trees. It was a primal sound, one that resonated deep within them, igniting a fear they had never felt. Sarah's flashlight trembled in her grip as she turned towards the dense undergrowth, each rustle of leaves igniting her anxiety. Did you hear that? Tom, the group's self-appointed leader, whispered, his voice barely audible over the wind's shriek. His eyes darted around, scanning for any signs of movement. Yeah, I heard it, Sarah replied, feeling a lump form in her throat. We should go check it out, right? The uncertainty made her voice quiver. A chill ran down her spine as her instincts screamed for her to run, but an inexplicable pull urged her forward. Check it out? Are you crazy? Mike, the skeptical one of the group, hissed, gripping his shovel tighter. What if it's something dangerous? Yet the curiosity was magnetic, drawing them towards the sound. They edged closer to the gravesite but stayed a few steps back, their hearts racing in unison. Suddenly, the growl returned, louder this time, punctuated by furious snapping of branches. It was not an animal sound, but something more menacing, more human. An instinctual fear began to coil tightly in their chests. What had they unearthed? Let us get the hell out of here, Jessie, the youngest member, pleaded. Her eyes were wide with terror. No, we can't leave now, Tom insisted, his voice firm, masking his own growing worry. What if someone needs our help? The group hesitated, caught between two instincts, the urge to flee and the drive to uncover more secrets. But then, With a thunderous crash, something broke through the underbrush. They turned to see a figure stumbling out of the shadows, covered in dirt and leaves, eyes wide with panic, breath ragged. "Help me!" the figure cried, collapsing at their feet. It was a young woman, her clothes torn, trembling. "They're coming, what do you mean?" "Who's coming?" Sarah asked, dropping to her knees, urgency overriding fear. "The ones who belong to the grave," she gasped for breath, her face pale and eyes darting. "They have awakened." A chilling silence enveloped them. The wind stopped as if nature itself paused to listen. "Awakened? What are you talking about?" Tom pressed, but doubt flickered in his eyes. Had they just opened a door to something beyond comprehension? As the woman's story unfolded, the distant cries mingled with a low, rhythmic chant that seemed to rise from the very earth itself. It reverberated in their chests like a heartbeat. What if they come for the tools? Sarah's voice was tremulous, an icy realization washing over her. What if the markings were a warning? The woman clutched Sarah's arm, her grip like iron. "You must listen. We need to leave now." But it was too late. The air thickened abruptly, crackling with an energy both terrifying and intoxicating. The chant grew louder, and shadows began to slither through the trees, creeping closer, circling them like wolves ready to strike. The group exchanged terrified glances, the gravity of their find closing in around them. What had they awakened from its slumber? What ancient horror had they stumbled upon in the dark? And just as they prepared to flee, a figure stepped into the light of their flashlights, tall and menacing, shrouded in darkness. "Stay," it commanded, voice echoing, draped in authority. A paralyzing fear gripped them, and just like that, the forest fell silent once more. What fate awaited them? Would they be merely spectators to a nightmare? Or were they now part of something far greater and far more dangerous? Tension hung in the air, ready to snap. The next move would change everything. The darkness pulsated, thick and weighty, as the figure loomed closer. Its features were lost in shadow, but every heartbeat echoed in the silence, a tangible reminder of their dread. "Who are you?" Tom finally managed to push the words out, his voice cracking. Hope battled against instinct, but desperation painted his tone. The creature shifted, revealing itself in a distant glow. It wasn't entirely human, but something else, something old, something alive. Its eyes gleamed with an otherworldly light, a warning that skittered up their spines. "Leave this place." The voice dripped with authority, tinged with aggression. "The marked are restless." Jessie's breath quickened, her grip tightening on the shovel she wielded like a child's security blanket. "What do you mean marked? We didn't mean to disturb anything." "Disturbance is irrelevant. The ancient ones have risen." The young woman, still trembling on the ground, looked up. "We need to go. If they awaken, they'll reclaim what is theirs." Panic danced in her voice, blending seamlessly with the chilling undertone of the stranger. From behind them, the soft rustle turned into a cacophony of movement. The trees seemed to whisper secrets as the shadows deepened, twisting into grotesque shapes. Sarah felt like she was suffocating, the air around her electric with an unseen threat. "Run!" Mike shouted, but his shout was swallowed by the swell of chanting that continued, louder and more insistent. A chorus of voices seemed to seep from the ground itself, rising up to claim its audience, to claim them. As they turned to flee, monstrous figures began to unfurl from the woods, their movements eerily fluid, draped in earth and shadows. They came not as mere specters, but shadows shaped perhaps by human hands long ago. Ancient rituals woven into the fabric of the land surged to life, cursing them for their intrusion. The woman grasped Sarah's arm, her nails digging in. "You can't leave me. They want me." Her voice broke, fractured with raw terror. "You don't understand. They want to take back what you've disturbed." A shuddering rumble echoed through the trees. The very ground trembled beneath their feet as the chanting grew frantic, throbbing like a beating heart. Something far larger than fear pressed upon them, a weight of ancient justice yearning to reclaim its due. Tom felt the urge to protect them all, pinning him in place. "We can't leave her. We have to help." But the words felt hollow, an empty vessel. His grip on reality was slipping with each passing second. The tools, Mike gasped. They're after the tools. Recognition ignited in his eyes. A dreadful understanding that the excavated equipment wasn't just metal, it was a binding force connecting them to whatever haunted this land. Then take them back, Sarah shouted, cutting through the chaos. Maybe, just maybe, that will stop them. But before they could act, the spectral forms surged forward, a tidal wave of shadows that engulfed the young woman, pulling her back into the darkness. She screamed, a sound that shattered the night, blending with the chant as if they de-orchestrated this dreadful symphony together. In that moment, time warped. The world narrowed, every breath feeling like a countdown to their ultimate fate. The last image they saw was her face contorted in primal fear as the earth welcomed her back into its embrace. Tom's heart raced, battling between instinct and horror. They had a choice. Retrieve the tools and risk awakening the wrath of the shadows, or flee deeper into the forest and risk being consumed by the darkness themselves. Just as they were paralyzed by indecision, the leader of the shadows emerged from the mass, voice booming. You are connected now. Choose your path wisely. As the forest grew darker still, each choice bore the weight of fate. The possibilities stretched before them, all ending in shadows. What could possibly lie ahead? Would they sacrifice everything for the chance to protect one? Or would they uncover truths best left buried? As panic set in again, a chilling thought began to form. What had they truly awakened, and was there any turning back? Tom felt the earth shift beneath their feet as the shadows writhed like living ink, pressing closer. Time stood still and yet rushed forward, almost in defiance of the chaos unfolding around them. The guttural chanting crescendoed, transforming the once quiet forest into a cacophony of fear. Go back, Mike yelled, his voice cracking, eyes wide with sheer terror. Right then, fear morphed into a fierce urgency. The weight of the moment stifled all reason, pushing adrenaline through their veins like fire. Tom lunged, instinct propelling him in pursuit of the outlines that vanished just out of sight. We have to get the tools. He didn't recognize the resolve in his voice. They felt tethered to this malevolent force, but a spark of rebellion consumed him. Jessie hesitated, her gaze darting between Tom and the relentless shadows. What if we don't make it back? What if we awaken worse things? Her voice trembled, full of dread. No choice. Sarah's response was immediate, fierce enough to crack the air. The fear in her eyes demanded action. They took her. We can't let them take anyone else. They turned, united by shared panic. Tom forged ahead, plunging deeper into the thicket. The visibility was poor. Branches snagged at their clothes like skeletal fingers intent on pulling them back. Shadows danced chaotically, swirling around them, as if the darkness itself sought to obscure their path. The tools lay just beyond the clearing where they had unthinkingly unearthed them, but the remnants of the past surged like a tide, pulling them toward an unknown fate. Tom could almost hear the echoes of voices chanting through the ages, urging them to abandon their quest to become vessels of the very darkness they feared. Stay close, he implored, glancing back to ensure Jessie and Sarah were still behind him. He pressed through the tangled underbrush, heart pounding in sync with the escalating chaos behind them. And then it hit him: there was importance in their discovery, a gateway to history. The tools weren't merely metal. They were much more, relics that bound their reality to what lurked in the dark, grasping for release. He could feel it, as if the very air grew dense with foreboding knowledge. But before they could reach their destination, cold fingers of shadow wrapped around Mike, pulling him back. Help! He screamed, eyes wide with terror. Jessie reached out, grasping desperately for him, but it was too late. The darkness enveloped him, swallowing his cries like a predator silencing its prey. No! Sarah lunged, horrified, but the shadows hissed in furious rhythm, drowning out everything: their panicked breaths, their pleas. Leave this realm, the creature's voice echoed, deeper and more terrible than before. Your time here is done. You have stirred the marked, and they will not rest until you pay your price. Tom's pulse raced, Their choices felt like shackles tightening around them. "Get the tools," he urged. Now, they charged into the clearing, fortifying their resolve. The tools, their fate hinged on reclaiming what they had disturbed. Jesse screamed as shadowy figures began to emerge, clawed hands reaching through the darkness like talons hungry for flesh. "Tom!" The shriek came from Sarah as she stumbled, tripping over a root. The sharp crack of wood echoed in the night, and time warped again, stretching the moment into an eternity. "Grab her!" Tom bellowed, but the figures advanced, eager for chaos. The elements surged together, a swirling mass of dread and lingering hope. As Sarah was pulled down, Tom rushed, desperate to close the distance, regretting every decision that had led to this point. Would retrieving the tools turn the tide, or would they awaken an even greater darkness? In the grasp of panic, a new ancient fear began to take shape, etching itself deep within their minds. What if they were the marked? What were they truly unlocking with every frantic step through the night? Just then, a blinding light erupted from the clearing as the tools began to resonate, almost reacting to their impending doom. All hope lay in that sudden illumination, but was it salvation or the final nail in their coffins? Tom's breath hitched as he barely shielded his eyes from the glaring light erupting from the clearing. It flickered like a beacon amidst the darkness, illuminating the shadowy figures that danced with raw fury. The air thickened with tension, a desperate weight that hung between them and the encroaching darkness. "Grab the tools," Jessie shouted over the clamor, her voice sharp and urgent. The glint of metal shimmered in the light, promising deliverance and damnation all at once. As Tom sprinted toward the tools, he could sense the shadows losing their grip, if only for a moment. Was it the light, or were their twisted forms simply regrouping, hiding until they could strike again? He dove forward, stretching out his hand. The moment he touched the tools, a rush surged through him, a connection to something greater, deeper. A rippling energy pulsed beneath his skin, filling him with a knowing dread. Suddenly, whispers filled the air, feathery and insistent. "Release us, fulfill your destiny, Tom. Hurry." Sarah's voice shattered the hypnotic trance. He jerked his head up and saw figures emerging from the darkness once more. An unholy congregation stepping forward with malicious designs. Jesse and Sarah were close, their faces pleading, stricken with terror. The shadows hissed, and an urge surged in Tom, a mix of fight or flight. "Stand back." He brandished the tools like a shield. The light pulsed again, and for a moment, the shadows recoiled as if stung. It was just enough time for Sarah to grab hold of Jesse. They all huddled together, forming a barrier of warmth against the cold, creeping dread. "What are they?" Jesse gasped, her face pale, eyes darting around. "Something we woke," Tom replied, shaking off the icy grip of terror clinging to him. "But maybe we can use these before he could finish." A loud crash echoed through the clearing. A massive shadow emerged, towering over them. It engulfed the light, swallowing everything in its path. Black eyes glowed like embers while a deep growl emanated from its core. "You dare disturb the rightful slumber?" It boomed, voice like thunder amidst a storm, curling around them like a vice. A chill gripped Tom's heart. The shadows weren't just random. They were a collective, determined and powerful. The ground trembled beneath them, reverberating with the anger of things long entombed. "Tom, we can't fight this." Sarah panicked, her hands trembling. "We can't give up." He locked eyes with her, feeling the weight of their fate in that moment. "We have to do something. We have no time, we need to get away," Jessie shouted, panic creeping into her tone. But escape wasn't an option. Not now. Desperate, Tom steeled himself and raised the tools high. "We're not leaving without a fight." The shadows hissed, their forms congealing as they charged a tidal wave of darkness. The light dimmed, leaving only the soft glow of what the tools could offer. Tom closed his eyes, heart pounding. "Please let this work," he murmured. Suddenly, as if responding to his plea, the tools unleashed a blinding surge of energy. The shadows paused, that single moment of hesitation igniting a flicker of hope. "Tom!" Jessie screamed, her voice piercing through the chaos. What if they're not just monsters? What if this all means something? The pressure around them amplified, surrounding the trio with an unsettling silence, as if the world held its breath in that split second. Tom's mind raced. What if they held the key to some forgotten truth? Or worse, what if they were meant to become part of the darkness? Just then, a single voice broke through, deep and resonant, trailing with a chilling promise. The choice is yours: awaken the truth or face the abyss. And before Tom could comprehend, the ground shattered. The lights sparked and trembled, scattering the shadows and forcing them backward. Every heartbeat pulsed in unison as the air turned electric, and he realized they weren't simply facing monsters. They were standing on the verge of something far worse. What lay beyond this revelation? Was it their past, their future, or merely another layer of horror waiting to be unearthed? Tom. The echo of the creature's voice loomed large as shadows seeped back towards him, hinting at fates unknown. The moment hung heavily, and amidst the chaos, a new question arose. Were they ready to unearth the truth hidden in the darkness? Tom's heart raced, thunderous in his chest. The shadows pulsed, twisting like smoke around him. The ground beneath his feet felt alive, thrumming, vibrating with a fierce energy that threatened to pull him under. "Tom, we can't stay here," Sarah shouted, her voice barely breaking through the din. He opened his eyes, determination coursing through him. "We have to find a way to harness this." The tools, as if mocking him, the shadows laughed. It was a deep, guttural sound, echoing with centuries of anger. "Foolish mortals, you think you can command what you do not understand?" Tom tightened his grip on the tools, their cool metal reassuring against his skin. The light surged again, flickering wildly like a heart struggling to beat against the overwhelming darkness. It was both beautiful and horrifying, a flash of hope clawing its way through despair. "What if we don't have to control them?" Jesse's voice wavered but held an ember of audacity. "What if we just have to survive? A survival instinct isn't enough." Tom snapped back, his voice full of turmoil. "We must discover what they want." As he said it, the shadows shifted. A figure broke free from their ranks, a wispy apparition, both terrifying and undeniably human. It had the shape of a person but was formed from swirling shadows, a mirror reflecting the darkest parts of life. "What do you seek?" the figure whispered, its voice chilling yet oddly alluring. "What truth is worth your very souls? Are you one of us?" Sarah stuttered, her eyes wide in disbelief. "Once," the figure replied, its voice a dance of agony and ecstasy. "Before the shadows claimed me. Now I serve as their envoys. They need a vessel." A pulse of fear shot through Tom. "What do you want?" "To live, to rise from the depths of this despair. Release us, and you shall know our truth." The shadows swirled again, more frenzied this time. If possible, a chorus of insidious whispers crowding around them. "Release us. Fulfill your destiny." Tom felt the words wrap around him, threatening to pull him closer to the darkness. "How do we know what we're releasing?" In an instant, the shadow figure elongated, stretching towards him like a broken dream seeking a fix. "Only the brave dare tread the path of enlightenment. But beware, the cost is great." The air thickened, and Tom glanced at Jesse and Sarah, both looking as though they might shatter under the weight of the choice placed before them. He could see their fears mirrored in the darkness, and it intensified his resolve. "No one gets left behind," he declared, more for himself than anyone else. "We are their witnesses, and no matter what stains our souls, we will see this through." The shadows recoiled, visibly shaken by his words, and in that moment of hope, sparkles of light flared brightly from the tools, illuminating the figures around them. The darkness faltered but wouldn't retreat. "Join us," the shadows hissed, voices layered with venomous passion and promise. "Join us, and become one with the power you crave." As the darkness inched forward again, Tom watched as emotions flickered across Sarah's face. "What if we refuse?" she whispered, heart racing. "Then we face the abyss," he answered, the weight of his words settling heavy in the charged air. He felt the grim truth settle inside his chest, a dawning realization that the only way through was to confront whatever lay beneath this madness. The figure advanced, a suggestion of a grin stretching across its shadowy countenance. Be prepared, Tom. The secrets you unearth may rot your very core. With a deep breath, Tom channeled his fear into determination, clutching the tools tightly. Then let us find out together. Just as he stepped forward, the ground beneath them quaked violently, splitting wider than before with a deafening roar, exposing a dark abyss beneath. Are we ready? Echoed through Tom's mind as they hovered on the precipice of discovery. In that moment, the enormity of the choice loomed ahead like a tidal wave, forcing them towards a reality they could neither predict nor escape. It was time to decide. What awaited them in the gaping maw of the unknown? Would they embrace the call of the shadows, or would they be consumed entirely? The ground seemed to breathe beneath their feet, each quiver echoing a warning that bled into the heavy silence surrounding them. The darkness below was an invitation and a threat all at once, a maw ready to swallow every ounce of light left in their world. Tom could feel the adrenaline spike in his veins, flooding his senses. 1,000 questions raced through his mind. What would the shadows unveil? And at what price? Jessica's hand grasped his shoulder, her grip trembling, but her resolve shone through the fear in her eyes. Tom, we can't just jump in there, she cautioned, voice barely a whisper. As if too loud would provoke the shadows, he couldn't tear his gaze away from the abyss. We don't have a choice, he said, his heart pounding louder than his voice. It's either face it or let it consume our world. The shadow figure paused, its form flickering like a flame caught in the wind. You speak bravely, but bravery does not shield you from the truth. Face the depths, and you might find yourselves if you survive. The specter's laughter echoed in his mind, a chilling melody that clawed at his thoughts. Just like that, the shadows closed in, leaning toward them, hungry for fear, eager for acceptance. Together, Tom said, not just to Jesse and Sarah but for himself too. We go together. As he positioned himself at the edge, he felt a sensation like cold water rushing over him, the sunlight vanishing behind thick clouds. The tools in his hands pulsed with energy, warmth radiating from them as if aware of the perilous journey ahead. One step, everything shook as if a storm was brewing beneath their feet. Jesse edged closer, feelers of shadows weaving around her ankles, trying to pull her down. Panic danced in her breath. Tom, what if this is a mistake? Nothing we do will matter unless we confront it. He stepped back, taking a deep breath. Look, the light from the tools, it's keeping the shadows at bay. And it was true. The flickering light fought against the encroaching dark like a lifeguard battling raging waves. In that moment, hope ignited in the cavern of despair. Tom glanced at Sarah, who seemed braver, strengthened by his words. Okay, let us do this. Jessie rallied, the fire of determination lighting her eyes. They joined hands, grounding each other as they took one collective step forward. The shadows twisted and howled, their voices merging into a cacophony as the abyss widened below them, threatening to engulf everything with a rushing roar. Don't let go, Tom shouted, his voice swallowed by the encroaching chaos. The ground crumbled beneath their feet, plunging them into darkness. A visceral scream of fear reverberated through them. Wind whipped at their clothes, disorienting and menacing. With a sudden jerk, they were falling through nothingness, weightless but tethered to each other. Fear, adrenaline, and a glimmer of hope wrapped around their beings. Then, magic, if it could be called that, snapped into place. The tools erupted with bright light, cutting through the thick blackness. In that blinding radiance, they felt the shadows recoil. What is happening? Sarah gasped, clutching Tom tightly, her eyes wide. The shadows shifted, swirling in furious loops, almost formulating a face, a raw visage laced with unrecognizable emotions. You dare defy us? The voice hissed, stronger, echoing through the abyss. You will regret this. Before Tom could respond, the light began to flicker, the grip of hope loosening along with their hold on reality. And then silence fell heavy and oppressive in the stillness. Tom's breath caught in his throat. They hung suspended in darkness, the precipice of discovery lingering just a heartbeat away. Did the shadows dare them to leap, or did they simply seek to consume? "What do we do now?" Jessie whispered, the quaver in her voice striking fear into Tom's heart. The weight of the moment shifted, and they inched closer to the pain of a truth that might shred them apart, as the abyss whispered secrets that could change everything. Could they seize the light, or had they embraced a darkness that would never let go? The shadows waited, hungry, promising. What awaited them as they stood on the brink of that eternal night? Would there come a moment when clicking talons breached the silence, heralding their fates? The darkness swallowed them, but it was the flicker of light that marked their journey. The tools quaked in their grasp, a vital pulse of energy surging through their hands, illuminating the void. Tom's heart raced, the weight of silence thick in the air, and he could feel the shadows plotting, coiling around them. "Keep together!" he shouted, his voice ringing out against the surrounding black. The glow from the tools created pools of yellowish light, yet the deeper shadows persisted, swirling hungrily just beyond their reach. It felt like the darkness held its breath, waiting for them to falter. Where are we?" Sarah's voice trembled as she struggled to keep her composure. The unfamiliar space felt alien, a limbo between worlds. "No idea," Tom breathed, forcing his eyes to scan their surroundings. Shapes darted at the edge of the light, and he felt a chill creep up his spine. It was a void that seemed both familiar and threatening, like a nightmare one let go. Footsteps, faint, echoing from below. The sound sent a shiver through him. Were they truly alone? "Listen," Jessie hissed, her voice barely above a whisper. The echoes grew stronger, a tempo like the distant thrum of drums. "We need to move," Tom urged. "If we just stand here, the shadows will get to us. We can't let ourselves be taken." With one final squeeze of their hands, the trio began to tread forward into the unknown. The glow pulsed softly, guiding the way as they stepped away from the edge of despair. With each stride, the air shifted around them, as if the shadows were closing in even tighter, hungry for a slip. Then, the ground beneath them gave way an endless drop. Tom staggered back just in time, breath hitching in his throat. "What if it's a trap? Then we've got to find a way around," Sarah declared, resolute. But as they glanced around, the dark expanded, becoming a swirling mass. It felt alive, like it was evaluating them, considering their worth. "Tom!" Jessie cried. The shadows began to ripple, their edges sharpening into fangs that glistened with anticipation. "Don't look back," he yelled, urging them onwards into the thicker darkness. They fled forward, hearts pounding in panic, feet scrambling across the uneven terrain. Then the howling reached a fever pitch. Voices, indistinct yet palpable, swirled into frenzy, a chorus of torment from long-forgotten souls. The very air vibrated with agony, tugging at their minds as each scream threatened to unravel their sanity. "Make it stop!" Jessie nearly wept, clutching her head. "Focus!" Tom shouted, clenching his fists around the glowing apparatus, willing the light to break through the veil of despair, a beacon within a tempest. "We can do this." Then suddenly, a burst of blinding light erupted from their tools, illuminating a narrow path ahead. Shadows recoiled, shrieking in anguish before dissipating, momentarily shirking back from the onslaught of brightness. "What is this place?" Sarah murmured, staring ahead in awe. Before them lay cavernous walls adorned with ancient etchings, glowing like embers. Scenes of battles, rituals, and dark figures played out, telling tales of a forgotten time. It was mesmerizing, yet the power pulsed with unease. "Look at the markings," Jessie whispered. "It's like they're alive." As they approached, the etchings seemed to shimmer with thoughts that slipped through their fingers, stories they could almost grasp. But as Tom reached out, a shadow flicked back into view, a manifestation of what they feared. The light began to dim. "No!" he shouted, shivering as a wave of despair flooded back over them. "We can't lose it now." Suddenly, the shadows danced, twirling wickedly as if empowered by their fear. Each movement teased the ether, bending close enough for Tom to feel the chill wrap around his heart. They were not just opponents, but a dark memory woven into time, intent on claiming the trespassers. "It's like they're alive, Tom," Jesse cried, terror-stricken, eyes wide with fright. "What do we do?" Sarah's voice cracked, desperation clawing at her words. Tom's resolution firmed. "We fight. We reclaim our story." With hearts afire, they harnessed the light once more, plunging forward into the heart of the shadows, ready to uncover the truth or perhaps become part of the dark tapestry forever. But something in the back of Thomas' mind warned him. The greater the light, the darker the shadows could become. As they surged forward, confrontations loomed ahead. Would they emerge, or had the shadows whispered too many lies? Above the heavy silence, a whisper echoed, seductive and slick. "What if you did not belong to the light?" And in that moment, everything clicked. What secrets might they find if they ventured deeper into the abyss? They pressed on, each step a heartbeat in the trembling silence. The walls pulsed gently as if the cavern itself were alive, breathing in sync with their fear. Tom held the light tightly, the glow flickering softly, like a candle threatened by the wind. Shadows loomed and twisted around them, ricocheting off the cavern walls, and for every hesitating heart, there came a whisper, a taunt. "Turn back! You don't belong here!" The voices twisted around them, echoing with an eerie familiarity. They clawed at Tom's resolve, digging into his thoughts, dragging up memories he thought long buried. "Shut it out!" he shouted, hoping his voice could drown their insidious murmurs. He felt the warmth of Sarah and Jesse's presence beside him, steadfast, even as he could sense their own growing unease. Ahead, the path split. One way descended deeper into darkness, an oppressive weight of shadow looming like a curtain, while the other seemed to turn upwards, towards an uncertain light. Instinct urged him to head for light, but the darkness beckoned with a seductive pull, promising secrets not yet known. "They're trying to separate us," Sarah shouted, gripping Thomas' arm with a vice-like hold. "We have to stick together. What if one of us gets taken?" "No," Tom replied, swallowing hard. "We choose. We either face the depths or climb towards whatever that light is." He pointed ahead, the glow from their tools casting dancing shadows against the rough stone. Every instinct screamed to avoid the descending darkness. Jessie looked between the paths, panic flickering in her eyes. "What if it doesn't matter? What if we're trapped, no matter which way we choose?" "Stick with your gut," Tom said, forcing confidence into his voice. "The more we linger, the more they tighten their grip." They took a deep breath as one, shared a silent nod, and headed towards the upward path. Each step felt heavier, like the shadows were pulling at their ankles, trying to drag them back into the abyss of their doubts. Just as they neared the bend, the walls began to vibrate, thrumming with an energy that prickled Tom's skin. The etchings on the stones glowed brighter, swirling into a chaotic dance of colors. History unfurled before them, battles, offerings, and divine reckoning, images overlapping like frames from a flickering film. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed behind them, gravel cascading down from where the shadowed passage once loomed. The ground trembled beneath them. "Run!" Tom yelled, his heart pounding. They pushed forward, the air thickening with tension as they raced towards the burgeoning light. But as they surged forward, shrieks of anguish echoed from the darkness they left behind. It sounded like countless souls trapped in agony, a torment that threatened to devour the remnants of their hope. Each scream burrowed into Tom's chest, a warning echoing the truth. They were not just seeking escape. They were being hunted. Ahead, the light blazed fiercely, but even it felt tainted, like a false dawn. As they turned the corner, the cavern opened into a vast, shimmering chamber. Crystals hung from the ceiling, illuminating the space with a surreal glow, reflecting a spectrum that felt almost otherworldly. Yet there was something else lurking in the periphery. "Do you see that?" Jessie gasped, pointing to the far wall etched with symbols that bore a strange resemblance to the markings they had seen earlier, but now pulsating with a dark energy. Tom's breath caught, realization mixing with fear. "It's like some kind of beacon." "But for what?" As they stepped closer, The chamber began to vibrate, thrumming like a beating heart. Suddenly, one of the crystal columns shattered, sending shards spiraling through the air with a sharp crack. A deep rumbling resonated from the depths of the earth, and the walls pulsed as if alive, desperate and chaotic. Glaring light exploded from the cracks, revealing the outline of figures emerging from within shadowy forms, twisted and grotesque, crawling forward toward the light. "We need to," Tom started, but the words faded as eyes cold, knowing, and hungry turned toward them. The shadows surged forward, drawn by the light, closing in like wolves on their prey. "Find the truth." The whisper echoed louder now, enveloping them, wrapping around their thoughts like a noose. Before Tom could comprehend, they were no longer alone. The chamber was filling fast, the darkness swirling, swallowing the beams of light, and whatever came next could change everything, unraveling not just their story but the fabric of existence itself. With terrified hearts, they prepared to confront the shadow's light against darkness, truth against the lies long woven into their fate. What secrets would the shadows reveal? And what darkness hid even deeper within? The shadows advanced, pressing closer, their writhing forms hungry for the light surrounding Tom and his friends. In that monumental moment, a fear unlike anything they had ever encountered gripped them. It gnawed at their core and clawed its way up their throats. "Stand firm," Tom shouted, his voice fighting against the rising tide of dread. Holding tight to the tools, he could feel an energy coursing through him, a mixture of defiance and desperation. He locked eyes with Sarah, who wore determination like a shield even through her fear. "Together," she yelled, and for a heartbeat, they were unified, three souls linked by courage. As the shadows surged forward, he raised the tools high. Light erupted, blindingly bright, a force that momentarily stunned the darkness. The whispers of the shadows turned to shrieks, their faces twisting with anguish and fury. "More!" Jessie cried, her voice laced with urgency. "We need to amplify it." The tools vibrated, shimmering with opposition, and in that charged moment, the energy sparked a connection deep within the cavern. The very air shifted, creating a barrier of light between them and the encroaching darkness. Tom felt the potency surge, a chorus of energies bonding at their fingertips. "Redirect it," he shouted, focusing the light in front of him, where the shadowy figures loomed. "This is our only chance." In an act of sheer will, he guided the light outward, creating beams that pierced the cavern, illuminating every corner in bright, stinging clarity. The shadows retreated, bent beneath the radiant force, their forms wilting like flowers deprived of sunlight. But just as triumph flickered on the horizon, he saw a larger mass coiling behind them, a force more powerful than the rest. It emerged, an embodiment of darkness, swirling with the rage of 1,000 souls. "You think this light can save you?" It bellowed, voice echoing like thunder through the chamber. "You belong to the void now." Fear twisted in Tom's stomach like cold steel. Doubts threatened to consume him. For a brief moment, he questioned their actions, wondering if they had chosen unwisely. "We can't give up." Sarah's voice jolted him back to reality, and he took a breath, centering himself amid the chaos. "We can't lose our way. We are more than what they want us to be." The realization fortified him once more. They weren't merely fighting against ancient evils, they were fighting for something greater, to reclaim humanity's lost history, to not just escape but to learn the truth hidden by centuries. Fueled by newfound determination, Tom called upon the tools once more, pushing the energy outward with primal intent. It raged like a wildfire against the shadows. The air crackled with life, centered now, as if channeling the very essence of light. Tom and his friends stood as a beacon of resilience. The cavern pulsated, and with each echoing chant of the shadows, they responded with a united roar. "We are not afraid." The shadows recoiled, wafts of their forms scattering like wisps of smoke against a gust of wind. But that malevolent force, the core of darkness, wouldn't relent. It surged forward, stronger than before, a tempest of fury and annihilation. "Embrace what you fear most," it hissed, tendrils reaching for their hearts, weaving around them with a sinister promise. Join us, and become one with the shadows. Thomas' heart thundered in his chest, and he knew this was their moment. We want to be your vessels, he cried, every ounce of conviction pouring into those words. You will not take us. As if spurred by his defiance, the tools flared up, emitting a blinding light that engulfed everything around. The very ground trembled as the colossal shadow essence writhed against its own malevolence, striving to remain intact. With each moment, Tom felt their collective energy connecting, threading together a fabric of hope interlaced with resistance. The whispers transformed into wails, frantic and pleading. Then it happened, a seismic shift. The shadows began to flutter and dissolve into shards, vibrations rushing outward, unraveling the darkness that sought to ensnare them. The cavern expanded, the very essence of their being intertwining with the pulsating energy they had conjured as all became enveloped in brilliant illumination. The shadows dead-angled, dissipating into mist. The monstrous figure staggered, gasping at its exodus from power. Foolish mortals, it roared, but these words held no weight now. Then, silence fell, a soothing embrace where the light had once fought so fiercely against the dark. Tom blinked, adjusting to the brilliance that enveloped them. Around him, a breathtaking transformation unfolded. Ethereal images danced across the cavern walls, vibrant illustrations of lives once lived, markings now pulsing with a legacy reclaimed. Did we? Jesse whispered, wide-eyed, breaths even and awestruck. Did we do it? Look, Sarah gasped, pointing toward the far wall where the shadows had fought against the impending light. The images stabilized, revealing a serene vista, an echo of ancient Neanderthal lives entwined with the spirit of survival, resilience, and connection that they had once sought to erase but could never truly sever. Tom felt peace wash over him. They hadn't just escaped. They forged an everlasting bond with the essence of those who had come before, understanding now that the truth lay not in fear, but in connection and courage. We found it, Tom breathed, realizing the significance of their journey. They had unearthed not just a history but a shared humanity. Then, the brilliance began to fade around them. Wait, what is happening? Jesse queried. I don't want to go back. I think he started, unsure. A wave of warmth wrapped around them, an ethereal embrace that felt like a promise of renewal. Maybe it's returning us home. As they felt the pull of the cavern resonating and swirling around, hearts steadied, joined as one. They were not simply emerging from the darkness. They were stepping into the light, leaving behind the shadows while taking with them the weight of understanding and empathy. A bright flash engulfed them completely, and the world seemed to hold its breath. When the light settled, they found themselves back at the forest clearing, the ancient burial site now concealed beneath a peaceful layer of leaves and brush. But deep within, they knew that the truths they had discovered, the connections forged through shadows, would illuminate their lives forever. They had faced their fears, reclaimed their history, and emerged not just as survivors, but as protectors of the narrative that linked them to those before. Arm in arm, they turned back to the forest, hearts thrumming with renewed purpose. One final look was exchanged, a silent vow to carry the stories of both the light and the shadows. With the whisper of ancient winds urging them forward, they stepped deeper into a world that now held the essence of their journey and the power of the truth they would share. In that moment, they weren't just three archaeologists. They were a living tapestry threaded through time, shaping the lives of those yet to come, and above all else, they would remember light and dark, past and future, intertwined always, not as enemies, but as partners in their story. What they had awakened would live on, eternally as the horizon brightened beyond the trees. A new chapter began. Now it's time for you. You need to subscribe immediately, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this journey. And make sure you instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion, because this is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.